Hi, Denny Johnson here. I thought I would take a few moments to give you a overview of Rayid, past, present, and future, but mostly emphasizing the future. Rayid for me has been a 50-year journey, and I'm sharing that journey as I go on this journey myself. It's the only thing I do. I don't have a different profession or a different activity. This is my existence, my life, and my commitment. And part of that is to be able to learn and access information and share that for the betterment and development of mankind's health, happiness, and well being. So, over the years, it started out with the flagship of Rayid being the iris, and it's still very dear to me, and it is continuing. Um, the Rayid iris has been the means for an individual to look at their constitution and see the difference in how they respond. Yes, there are endless varieties of fingerprints of irises, and the iris experience is extremely personal. I don't know of another way of looking at oneself than look at one's own eyes and to objectively put your pattern in the middle of many patterns and to determine what that looks like. I can assure you that the iris part of Rayid will continue long into the future. We are now aspiring to constantly make it better in its accessibility and information. I will go through a series of prepared recordings on each one of the constitutions in such a way that eventually our goal is to have a standalone system where you could submit your irises or those of your mate or family and have a pretty thorough overall explanation of your constitution and also the elements of left and right, father, mother's family. Iris is here to stay. There are those of you who think maybe I've abandoned Iris for other things, and no, that's not true. There was a time in there where I really did begin to leave Iris because I had an experience where the family tree became significant. How that happened was I was using irises to examine the well being of children who were severely disabled or disformed in some way. And I started building wall maps of mother and father and the siblings, and then the grandparents to look for something. Well, after a series of months of determined investigation, there comes a moment where the birth order comes to me. And so by the late 1980s, after 10 years of doing just IRIS, I went almost exclusively for 10 years going into just birth order and family tree. Many people thought I had abandoned IRIS altogether, and for all practical purposes, I did. I went wholeheartedly into, well, the solution that I would seek would be about the family tree. So then part of that was a program called Global Gratitude, which was the identification of individual grandmothers in the family tree as being the matrix holding together health and well-being. So that was an attempt to be able to utilize the birth order family tree phenomenon as a way to help people progress. Wonderful amounts of information. For those of you who haven't seen how it works, there is a absolute necessary combination between the iris and the birth order. So for example, if I have this constitution of a basic flower structure and I'm a 4 girl versus a number 4 boy, or a 2 boy or a 2 girl, the way that this is expressed is either going to be expressed through the mother's family or through the father's family. So just the constitution by itself has a value, but is much more useful when you combine that constitution with the left, right, and the mother and father's family, and you get more accurate. Well, the accuracy I refer to has to do with how the family tree affects you. So let me just show you the family tree patterns we've been using. For years, I've used this basic family tree diagram. The red being from the father's family, the blue being from the mother's family, and there is an interwoven masterpiece available inside the comprehension of how this works. The time will come when epigenetic science sees this. It's there, it does exist. Why they don't see it baffles me, really does. It's there. Yes, there's number one son, number one girl, and so on. And this is an interwoven system. I used to call it God's shoelaces, about how it alternates boy one, boy two, and so on. And there's an interwoven dynamics about how this works. Later on, this leads into more of the future about how the flowing movements of these also affect us. So let me just show you another graphic. And this is closer to the reality of it. It's how things connect and flow. So in this one, you see the lines of connection of each one of the round circles are mothers or grandmothers, great grandmothers, and each one of the triangles are grandfathers or great grandfathers, and how all of these are interconnected in a living system of dynamic flow. Dynamic circulation, where individual irises are connected to the epigenetics of one grandparent. The amount of information is stunning. There is so much information here. The future also that I'd like to provide is how to describe the individual relationship between your father's mother and her mother, and which part of the body, what symptom occurs there. So I'd like to provide an overall map of all the symptoms, all is a big word, but many of the symptoms of the human body and the human mind, and all of the symptoms in the physical body, and how they correspond to a specific relationship that I call a circuit. There is a circuit between my mother's mother and her mother. There is a circuit between my father's father and his father, how my great grandfather felt about his wife, how my great grandfather felt about his son, and vice. That's a circuit. Now, if there's a issue in this location, it's a physical symptom that occurs at a certain stage of life, or a certain time of the day, or a certain season of the year. There is an underlying importance of being able to learn this map for everyone. Even though you don't have 6 boys and 6 girls and siblings and or children, you do have them as grandparents, and they do affect you. There's an underlying circuitry, and you can call this circuitry chakras, and I don't usually like to go there too often, but yes, there is a circuitry in the up and the down and the ascending and descending, and there's this interwoven torus helix about how all this energy works. As the best of my ability, I'd like to be able to explain it to you theoretically so that you can be able to begin to experiment with it. Now, I also I would like to move toward how to use this dynamic, how to use iris, how to use birth order, how to be able to feel and experience this circulation. So part of this circulation is to understand that there are lines of energy. Let me just amplify this for you for one moment. Let me show you another graphic. Now, this is how I've always seen irises. I know that's odd, but for me, all the irises, they fit into specific slots of, I used to call them vectors. I've called them many different things. They're lines of energy. Now, what these lines of energy or vibrations really represent is the bridge between the body and the soul. They correspond to a specific part of one's own abilities or feelings or symptoms. Very important to be able to distinguish that. So each one of the sides of the family, they have different slots. So what I've commonly done in the iris is I've always wanted to ring the bell of that slot. So if I'm doing a consultation on somebody, I like to identify where are they and how did they get there? And then what is the next one that they're going to do? What's happening with this person? For example, in this graphic, there is a one boy on the outside, a 3 and a 5. And that just, you'll learn those numbers if you care to. 1, 3, 5 leads to 2, 4, and 6. And this is a flowing sequence that leads to 1 girl, 3 girl, and 5 girl. That leads to 2 girl, and 4 girl, and 6 girl. This is a flowing sequence of time. Yes, we just related all of the constitutional framework of the family tree and the iris, because there's an iris for each time of the day. There's an iris for each season of the year. That's how I got into the time part. And I didn't realize, and I apologize, I didn't emphasize it sooner, the absolute significance and importance and opportunity that is involved in time, and how this flowing rhythm of time creates the means for us to feel more, but also in alignment with the experience of nature. So let me show you something else. All of the colors, all of the vibrations associated with the iris, the birth order, and the family tree, they are systematically laid out in nature, mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, animal kingdom, and we're constantly going from inside out, and it's called self, others, and all, or mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, animal kingdom. And every one of the vibratory slots, or every one of the irises, has a progression primarily of 3. These 3s are constant. If you're aware of these 3s and you just ring the bell in these 3s as a practitioner, or you ring these bells inside yourself, you start to create a mobilization of life force. Now that's a mouthful, to be able to say the mobilization of life force. Yes, that's really pretty much about what it is. It's all about circulation. It's about the dynamics of circulation, circulation of breath, circulation of water, circulation of food, the circulation of social dynamics, the circulation over thousands of years of personal, social development globally, and how we are in process of learning to circulate past the mineral kingdom and the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. There's colors on the outside, powder blue, pink, and white. To me, those represent the higher divine principles, all connected to, for my benefit and your benefit, the opportunity to be in the body. So yes, I have unusual ways of using this information. And for the history of Rayid, I'd like to come back and share with you the things I've done. Now, I don't consider myself an exceptional human being. I'm exceptionally damaged in my own unique way. But I do some things that I do think are very valuable for you to consider doing that you probably have never done. For example, let me show you a couple of pictures. I'd like to describe for you why I do certain things. This is a picture of the fallopian. This is a place where you or I were conceived. This is where mom met dad, or sperm met the egg, whatever you want to call it. But this is a profound place. So why would a person, a man who doesn't have a fallopian, why would you want to go into and feel kinesthetically and energetically, why would you want to feel this part of your original origin as a soul? Well, for me, the answer is self-evident. It's valuable. It's the place I began. If I want to correct something or change something, I go here. I would love to share with you a whole series of experiences I've had that I created by the desire to want to experience something. Let me show you another picture. Now, some of you have already seen this, and I carry it with me. I've carried it with me for almost 30 years now. because I like to periodically, I like to go into this place. There are profound experiences available inside your bones. Yes, this is a single vertebrae from the spine. And yes, I like to take my time and go inside and learn. I'll share with you how to get there. I know it's odd, but you can get there utilizing your desire, your feeling, your focus, your intention. Yes, I've learned how to go inside a position and lay my skin back against the feeling of the bone using the imagination in combination with something that's true. I mean, this is a true picture of a bone. So my clarity of where to go, having specific intentions, and learning how to go there is highly developmental. There are wonderful things that can happen for you in this place if you go there. I'd like to show you how to go there. So there's a whole series of things I'd like to leave a record of for people to be able to, if you want to experiment with what it feels like, to be able to go inside your body. Weird as it may seem, a lot of the answer has to do with becoming more sensitive to the inside of your body and then doing the circulation or achieving a state of stillness in that location for a moment. Whether it's the bones or the pineal or the heart, there are amazing experiences available inside the human body. So I'd like to show you how some of these work. Now, part of this experience is it's become for me body, body, body. I used to want nothing to do with the physical body. It was a mistake. I was young. I wanted nothing to do with people. Well, yeah, that was a problem for me. I didn't like many of them. I wanted nothing to do with relationships for a while. That didn't last long. They kept coming. I didn't want anything to do with the mind because the mind I saw as an impediment and a barrier and ego stuff and all of that. And all of that was, in some levels, immature mistakes. And I apologize for those of you that I used my immaturity in some way. And, please, both of us can get over it. The opportunity to be able to understand how to use the body and the mind and nature and circulation, there are wondrous, beautiful things possible. Now, what I try to do is I'm trying to have an attitude like this when I go into the bones. I wish I could do this. I want to be one of these. I want to be that in my own joyful optimism of the acceleration of life force in my bones, inside me, my family tree, the flowing circulations of color, the extraordinary experience of time, and how all those things flow together. There's so many things that are possible. So Rayid has come from the iris through the birth order into the timelines. Let me just show you a little bit more about the timelines. This is a brief overview of the timelines, the cycles of every hour of the day, circulating rhythmically, flowing, every single hour of the day having a different nuance of color and feeling, vibration and fragrance, and so on and so on. We're surrounded by a wondrous cornucopia of absolute beauty. And I sit, in some quiet, isolated place, wanting to tentatively learn how to connect to it. So that's why I used the timelines. And I didn't realize that if I spent just a few seconds in each one of them throughout the day, there was an opportunity to be able to create that exchange, to be able to do that. How to be able to live a different experience by taking advantage of the design of time to create a literal outcome. Now, I know all of this sounds, futuristic or unusual or strange, but sooner or later you're going to discover that it's true. And I'd like to even consider that there may be an opportunity for you to utilize this map in a different way. What I'm planning to provide is a map like this of specific symptoms in the human body. Because every one of these colors has a different emotion, and every one of these colors has a different gland, organ, and body system. So I'm planning to provide an opportunity for you if you have a sore knuckle on one finger, or you have a difficulty with your left knee, or there's a stroke or a heart attack or a symptom. There's all these named medical conditions that are actually the unresolved experiences of one of these slots. What I'm saying is that all physical symptoms have to do with somehow an unresolved emotional theater of by which you're attracting situations and people to help you experience that one feeling. So then it comes down to what are we going to do with all these symptoms? Most of the time in the past with Rayid, it has been 95% assessment and evaluation. Yes, I'd like to train anyone who wants as a practitioner for yourself or as a mother or father with children, birth order. I'm willing to provide as much information as I possibly can. I'm willing to train in all those categories to the degree of your interest. But sometime it leads to what are you actually going to do? What are you actually going to do minute to minute, hour to hour with your own personal responsibility for your family, for others, for the all? What are you doing with the circulation of this life force? This is really what it's about. So that's what I call crafting the David. So that's a personal thing about how I like the statue of the David, and how beautiful and remarkable it is to have this huge piece of rock that you can just craft. It's a miracle that somebody could do that. I'd like to learn how to craft my own David and to help you craft yours, whatever that may be. You might want to use the Pietà, I don't know. You can use whatever terminology you want. But let me just show you where it's basically leading. This is an odd picture. Let me just get out of your way a bit. This is a picture that is primarily of the spirit body of the individual. This is me basically sitting inside of it. This is my physical body, but there are layers of specific orientation in the field. Now, you may not believe that you have an energy field or an aura or a spirit body or whatever. If you don't, then you'll discover it sooner or later that there are specific layers, but there are threads that come from these layers that bring in triggers. There are triggers that come in. But if I handle these triggers responsibly, with feeling and truth and some degree of commitment to grow, it expands my capacity to access more and more of the universe. So this is my egg. And the only way I can hatch is to accept the responsibility for how to move forward. So I'd like to share with you what my experiments are. And some of you know, I'm experimenting right now with the equinox of how to be able to use the timing of the equinox to take these energies and bring them together for a moment. What does that mean? I'm trying to take the energies from my father and mother's sides of the family that are somewhat of my shell and my impediments and my law of attraction. I'm trying to bring them together momentarily so that I can dissolve some of the symptoms that would be causing my physical body to be in pain or to age prematurely. So how do I take that energy? I believe it's possible, theoretically, to change some of that on the equinox, and then a series of equinoxes past that. I'm going to find out if that works or not. But in order to do that, I need to craft something. This to me is, I know it looks like a simple thing, but it's about everything that I'd like to offer. It is about the past, it's about the future, it's about being able to be in the present, So this is going to be the crafting the David. What that means is how to feel, how to build desire, how to change the past, how to use the past mechanism to restore physical health, because that's where the physical health is created by the past. So this system of being able to utilize the flow of life force, I'm going to continually experiment with and create the means for it to effectively be useful for anyone else. So the eventual future of Rayid is still unfolding. It will keep unfolding and changing and growing. And that's the only thing I really like to do is keep this process alive, lucid, flowing, experience it, share it as best I can. Now, what I'd like to provide is a standalone system where you can access any symptom, any constitution of iris, any birth order, and get information to the degree that you want it. So if you want information about one thing, it would be available. If you want to go through the process of learning how to do this for others, I will gladly teach you. If you want to use this for your own personal transformation, I'd like to provide something I would call a site map. A site map would be where are you on the big picture? So if you want to start with iris, then you can start on that part of the site map. If you want to start with birth order, you can come from a different direction. If you want to start with nature or cycles and seasons or equinox, no matter where you start from, I'm going to suggest that there'll be the opportunity for you to be able to create a different flow altogether. So I'm available as much as I can humanly be available, and our progress into the future is going to continue. And I appreciate that you drop by occasionally to see what the odd guy is doing. I'm called many things, some of them nice, some of them not so nice, but it doesn't matter so much to me, really. I'm glad that you come by and see how I'm doing. And if some of this information can help you and affect you, then I feel like we're both at advantage. Thank you. It's been a dear and wonderful journey, and I will see you somewhere along the road. Bye for now.